Hey everyone, welcome back to the deep dive. We're diving into something pretty heavy today, extinction. But hey, you're here because you want to get into the nitty-gritty, right?
That's right. And you guys sent us a really compelling piece to unpack. It's the prologue to a book all about extinction, like the whole shebang.
Yeah, and just from this intro, it's clear this author's not pulling any punches. So what's the setup? Where do we even begin with something as massive as extinction?
Well, the prologue throws us way back. Like, think 200,000 years ago, Eastern Africa. That's where we meet this new species. It doesn't even have a name yet, at least not one it gives itself.
Okay, new species, no name, 200,000 years ago. That's a lot to take in, but hold on. They don't even have a name for themselves.
Not yet. But that's where things get interesting. Even without a name for their own kind, they were already naming everything around them.
Whoa, so they had language that early.
Yeah, and that ability to name things, to categorize even in a rudimentary way, it hints at something special, this cognitive spark. And the prologue makes it clear. These early humans weren't the biggest, the strongest, or even the fastest breeders, but they were resourceful.
Resourceful, so brains over brawn from the get-go.
Exactly. They adapted, they moved into different climates, learned to hunt new prey, avoided new predators. They weren't limited by the same things that would stop other animals, like rivers, mountains. Those didn't stop them.
They just figured out how to deal with them.
Right. The prologue talks about them gathering shellfish on the coasts, then heading inland to hunt mammals. It paints this image of constant problem solving, always pushing into new territories.
And that's how they end up bumping into another species, right, over in Europe?
Yeah, a similar species, but stockier, been in Europe for ages. And when these two groups met, well, they interbred. The prologue actually points that out.
So they weren't completely different species then.
Enough to interbreed, yeah. But what's wild is that the original European species eventually disappears. It's like this early sign of what's to come, displacement.
Displacement. And it's not just other human-like species, is it? They start encountering these massive animals, megafauna, the prologue calls them mammoths, woolly rhinos, things like that. I mean, how did they go up against creatures many times their size?
It wasn't always a direct confrontation. You got to remember, these megafaunas, they were often slow breeding, one offspring every few years, maybe, these early humans. They were adaptable and they reproduced more quickly. They could bounce back from setbacks faster.
So war attrition.
In a way, yeah. It's a pattern that keeps popping up, even today. Sometimes it's not about being the strongest or biggest, it's about resilience. And that resourcefulness, that adaptability, that's what let them dominate the continents. And then they did something even more daring. They crossed the sea.
Islands. Isolated ecosystems. It feels like we're really hitting a turning point here.
We are. Islands, they're like evolutionary laboratories. You get these unique species, things you wouldn't find anywhere else. The prologue paints a vivid picture. Birds with foot-long eggs, pig-sized hippos, giant skinks.
Creatures that had evolved with no real predators, no competition from mainland species.
Right. And then these newcomers arrive, and they don't come alone. They bring rats.
Ah, rats. Always hitching a ride, aren't they?
And for these island species, rats were a nightmare. They ate the eggs, the young, plus the humans. They hunted, they changed the landscape. The prologue says many of these island species, they just couldn't cope. They vanished.
So it's a tale of expansion, dominance, even accidental destruction. And for thousands of years, it's a gradual process, but then the pace picks up dramatically, doesn't it?
It does. The prologue highlights this period of insane population growth. It's like, boom, they're doubling again within a century. And that's tied to massive environmental changes.
Changes they're causing.
Oh, yeah. They're clearing huge forests for food, altering landscapes on a scale never seen before. Plus, they're moving plants and animals between continents accidentally, but with massive consequences.
So a reshuffling of the biosphere. It's like they're playing ecological roulette on a global scale.
Exactly. And then, bam, they discover something game-changing. Energy reserves buried deep underground.
Fossil fuels.
Right. And burning them unlocks this incredible amount of energy. It fuels even more population growth, new technologies, but it also starts changing the planet itself, the atmosphere, the climate, the oceans. It's all impacted.
And the prologue points out that other species are scrambling to adapt, moving higher towards the poles, trying to outrun the changes. It's a global reshuffling, but this time it's driven by something else entirely. And this is where the prologue gets really profound. It talks about mass extinctions.
Yeah, those moments in Earth's history where vast amounts of life just vanish. The prologue even names them, the Big Five. Catastrophic events, wiping the slate clean over and over again.
And the timing of this discovery, it's almost too perfect, isn't it? Right when we're realizing that Humans are causing another mass extinction.
Right. The prologue doesn't shy away from it. It calls it the sixth extinction.
Mhm.
And what makes it different is the cause. It's not a volcano, an asteroid, it's us. One species causing this ripple effect across the entire planet.
It's a heavy realization. And to grapple with that, the author lays out how they're approaching this topic. They're focusing on specific species, right?
Yeah, telling the stories of those lost, like the American mastodon, the great auk, this ancient sea creature called an ammonite. It's a way to make extinction tangible, to connect
Mhm.
with the loss on a personal level.
It's not just about numbers, it's about individual lives, lost lineages. And the book also dives into how we even came to understand extinction as a concept. It traces the history of paleontology, how we learn to read the Earth's history.
It sets the stage. And then the book takes us to the front lines of this ongoing crisis. The prologue mentions biodiversity hotspots, the Amazon, the Andes, the Great Barrier Reef. These are places facing incredible pressures right now.
And it's not just happening in those far off places, right? The prologue makes it clear that these same pressures exist closer to home.
Exactly. The author talks about visiting these locations for research because of invitations, but emphasizes that the issues are global. Extinction isn't just a problem for rainforests and coral reefs. It's happening everywhere.
And the author admits there's a certain morbid fascination with extinction, right? The idea of species vanishing, entire worlds disappearing. But they also talk about the excitement of discovery, learning about these creatures, understanding what we're losing. It's a complex mix of emotions.
It is. And ultimately, the prologue ends on a hopeful note. The author says they want readers to appreciate this moment in time. We're living through a period of unprecedented change, something that will leave a mark on the planet for millions of years to come.
And that brings us back to you listening to this right now. Think about this unnamed species starting out so small, so vulnerable, and yet look at what they've done. They've shaped the planet for better or for worse. And now we stand at this crossroads.
We do. This prologue, it's a wake-up call. It asks us all, where do we go from here? What role do we play in this story of expansion, adaptation, and now extinction? And honestly, that's a question worth wrestling with. It's bigger than any single species, bigger than ourselves. It's about the future of life on this planet.